The digital revolution would have looked a lot different without the contributions of Bill Gates, the co-founder of Microsoft and the richest man in the world, with a net worth of nearly $90 billion. His business sense can be described as extremely shrewd or flat-out ruthless, depending on whom you ask, and his leadership propelled Microsoft to the forefront of the personal computer industry in the early to mid-90s, a position it retains to this day. You'd expect Gates' primary residence to be among the most palatial estates in the world, and you would not be disappointed. Named Xanadu 2.0 after the home of Citizen Kane's Charles Foster Kane, the $123 million mansion sits on an enormous parcel of land in Medina, Washington. Its mind-boggling 66,000 square feet contains such features as a 20-seat home theater, ballroom with 200 guest capacity, a trampoline room with a 20-foot ceiling, and no fewer than 24 bathrooms. There's also enough garage space for 23 cars, a 2,100 square foot library, and a pool with its own underwater music system. Since this is Bill Gates' pad, there's also an array of ultra-high-tech features, including automatic climate and lighting control, rotational artwork that can be changed at the touch of a button, and heated floors and driveways. To top it all off, the 1,900 square foot guest house is just as high-tech, having served as a testing ground for all of the main house's technology. Xanadu 2.0 is so opulent that one lucky Microsoft employee once won a private tour for a high bid of $35,000. With a net worth of over $70 billion, Warren Buffett is currently the fourth richest man in the world and second only to Gates in the US. He's considered to be one of the most skilled and successful investors in the entire world, having earned nicknames like the Sage and the Oracle and acquiring all of his wildly diversified business holdings. He's also known for being notoriously frugal for such an incredibly rich man. He still lives in the modest Omaha, Nebraska home he purchased for just over $30,000 in 1958. But of course, that's not his only property. Buffett recently listed a Laguna Beach, California home, purchased for $150,000 in 1971 on the market, and this one has undergone a few upgrades. The home sits on a corner lot with a bay view and features nearly 3,600 square feet of space. 2 of its 6 bedrooms have private entrances, and many also feature balconies with spectacular ocean views. Although some features such as skylights and additional bathrooms were included in the renovations, there are still some telltale signs of Buffett's frugal nature, like the laminate countertops in the kitchen and an abundance of carpeted floors. But based on location and pedigree alone, it's safe to say that this beach house has slightly increased in value over the decades. Buffett's asking price is a cool $11 million. Jeff Bezos got his start on Wall Street before founding Amazon.com in 1994 at the dawn of the World Wide Web. It's gone on to become the world's largest online retailer, and he's also made a series of wise moves such as investing in Google and diversifying into media with the purchase of a number of major newspapers, including the Washington Post. He's usually cited right behind Bill Gates as the second richest man in the world, although due to a surge in Amazon shares, he briefly overtook Gates as the world's richest man for part of one day in July 2017. Although Bezos initially indicated he had no plans to relocate after buying the Post, it didn't take him long to set his sights on the largest private residence in Washington, D.C., which he recently bought for $23 million. Actually, 2 properties which Bezos plans to merge into one single-family home. The 27,000 square foot site housed a textile museum for over 90 years. The 10-bedroom, 14-bath property still looks like a museum, boasting classical architecture and original building materials, and Bezos will be neighbors with President Obama as he enjoys his post-political life. Renovation plans are currently under review by the local housing commission, but in the meantime, Bezos has plenty of other properties to focus on, since he's recently joined the top 25 list of America's largest landowners. His properties include a 165,000-acre Texas ranch, which also houses his aerospace company, Blue Origin, a $24.5 million 12,000-square-foot Beverly Hills estate with its own tennis court and greenhouse, and a 10,000-square-foot suite in Manhattan's Century Tower, where he makes his primary residence. Spanish tycoon Amancio Ortega is the founder of luxury clothing brand Zara and another frequent challenger to Gates for the title of world's richest man with a net worth of around $70 billion. After the first Zara store opened in 1975, Ortega quietly built enough of a fortune to diversify into the high-end real estate market, which he has done with gusto. He uses all-cash offers to outbid some of the most experienced professional property investors for high-profile properties, and by some accounts, he's amassed a real estate portfolio worth in excess of $10 billion. Ortega is another billionaire who prefers to live the frugal life, driving an Audi A8 and keeping only 2 modest residences. He also places a high premium on privacy, so not much is known about the interiors of his home. One even has a mysterious location. It's thought to be a nondescript apartment somewhere in Girona, Spain, where he spends most of his time with his family. One other slightly more majestic property sits on the oceanfront at Zalaeta at Osran Beach in India. It looks like an absolutely spectacular property, but so far as anybody knows, the public has never been allowed inside by the famously reclusive Ortega. He may not be interested in acquiring any more properties for personal use, but business is another story. Over the last 10 years, Ortega has spent at least $6 billion on real estate holdings in major cities all over the world. Mark Zuckerberg is the poster child for the concept of that one great idea. His was Facebook, the most dominant social network on the planet, and as its founder, he's seen his net worth soar north of $70 billion in recent years. Unlike some others, Zuckerberg seems to be keen to acquire as many swanky properties as possible, while being as much of a nuisance to his neighbors as he can. He bought his primary house in 2011. It's a $7 million, 5,000 square foot, 5-bedroom, 5-bath house in Palo Alto, which features plenty of glass, hardwood, and wide open spaces. But Zuckerberg recently decided he needed a little more. He bought up the 4 houses surrounding his property, with plans to merge all 5 properties into one large compound where he can privately entertain family and guests, a plan which is giving headaches to local housing authorities. Meanwhile, his $10 million home in San Francisco goes unused for large portions of the year, except by Zuckerberg's security team, who stays on year-round and takes up 2 street parking spaces in an area with a notorious lack of parking. This hasn't made many fans of his neighbors, but he can always retreat to his 700-acre ranch in Hawaii if the neighbors there weren't up in arms about his decision to build a 6-foot wall around the property. For someone who so obviously values privacy, Zuckerberg sure seems to make a lot of waves in whatever neighborhood he lands. Mexican businessman and investor Carlos Slim Helú has also spent a bit of time atop the world's richest list. He earned the rank for 4 years between 2010 and 2013. His $68 billion fortune was earned through vast holdings in media, entertainment, hospitality, sports, practically every sector of Mexican society. And this, of course, includes real estate. Slim's mansion in Lomas de Chapultepec, Mexico, has been his main residence for over 40 years. The 6-bedroom, 8-bath residence features a gourmet kitchen and California colonial architecture, and it sits high above the neighboring street, offering incredible views. But his most prestigious housing purchase must be the Duke Simons Mansion, directly across the street from the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art on 5th Avenue in New York City. The 20,000 square foot property features 12 bedrooms and 14 baths, along with 11 wood-burning fireplaces throughout. Early 20th century handcrafted workmanship can be found on every floor, from the hand-carved wall paneling to ornate iron staircases, with balcony views overlooking the hottest spot in the hottest city in the world. All of this for the reasonable sum of $44 million, Slim's purchase price. Larry Ellison is the founder of the Oracle Corporation, a tech company which focuses on enterprise software and database applications for businesses. They've competed very successfully with giants like Microsoft and Sybase, and throughout his tenure at the company, Ellison has amassed a personal fortune in the neighborhood of $55 billion. He's done this through a combination of wise investments and through his forays into the real estate market, which have seen him put together a truly stunning portfolio. He's been called the United States' most avid trophy home buyer, with plans to convert many of his purchases into art museums, each showcasing a different period or style. He owns literally dozens of ultra-expensive homes in California and Japan, including an even 2 dozen in the pricey Malibu area, 10 of which reside on Carbon Beach, a haven for billionaires. But it was his purchase of 98% of the entire Hawaiian island of Lanai that really raised eyebrows in 2012. Along with his purchase came 2 fully staffed Four Seasons resorts, which of course are now being fully renovated. He's also planning to use the island as a sort of testing ground for environmentally safe practices, which is right in line with his recent investments in clean energy. Truly, wherever Larry Ellison lays his head is home, and with a bottomless wallet and a dizzying array of property holdings, he has plenty of very expensive places to lay his head. The Koch brothers, Charles and David, have become notorious in recent years for their involvement in American politics, pouring billions in private funds into super PACs supporting their favorite candidates. Whether or not you agree with their methods, their family story is an impressive one, beginning with their father Fred's invention of a new process of refining crude oil in the early 20th century. Koch Industries went on to become an energy powerhouse, and most people are unaware that Charles and David are not the only Koch brothers. Bill Koch is a lesser-known member of the family, who is no longer affiliated with Koch Industries and is only worth a relatively paltry $1.25 billion, but nearly a tenth of this worth is tied up in his home, an 82-acre estate in Aspen, Colorado. The property features 7 cabins and 4 single-family homes with a combined 28 bedrooms and 27 baths. There are also 2 private fishing ponds and a climate-controlled hyperbaric 20-seat movie theater that is specially designed to comfort those who aren't used to being at altitude. The impressive property is on the market for $80 million, funds that Koch needs for his latest project, a complete replica of a Wild West town, which he's building in another area of Colorado. The former mayor of New York City, Michael Bloomberg, grew his fortune as the CEO of the company that bears his name, a media, software, and global financial services juggernaut which spans the globe. His fortune, estimated to be north of $50 billion, is enough to regularly place him among the top 10 richest people on Earth. And if his real estate portfolio is any indication, he's not likely to stop amassing wealth anytime soon. Bloomberg owns over a dozen pricey top-end properties around the world, including a $20 million estate in the Hamptons and a 6,200 square foot historic mansion in London's Chelsea neighborhood. But his real passion project has to be his properties on East 79th Street in New York. He's owned an elegant 5-story limestone townhouse on the street for over 30 years, and during that time he's spent millions purchasing additional units in the co-op next door, with the apparent intention of one day merging both buildings into a double-wide mansion in the middle of the city. His most recent of these purchases sent him back $14 million, and there is only one unit remaining for him to complete his masterpiece, a top-floor unit which, unfortunately for him, has been occupied for decades by a couple who have gone on record saying they are unlikely to ever want to sell. With his persistence and incredibly deep pockets, however, Mayor Bloomberg just might bring them around. Ira Rennert is known as the king of the junk bonds, having made his fortune in securities primarily selling high-risk, high-yield bonds. He may not have the largest personal fortune on this list. He's only thought to be worth about $6.5 billion, but his mansion at Sagaponack in the Hamptons has to be seen to be believed. Rennert bought the property in 2015 for an unbelievable $248 million, sitting on 63 acres. The compound's specifications must be estimated due to its sheer size. Most estimates put its square footage at about 62,000, with some going as high as 100,000 or more. It has anywhere from 21 to 29 bedrooms, between 18 and 39 baths, and a 100-car garage. Amenities include a 10,000 square foot sports facility with a basketball court and 2 bowling lanes, a 164-seat movie theater, and 3 swimming pools. The hot tub alone set Rennert back $150,000. But if you're going to buy the single largest private residence in the entire United States, you must spare no expense.